In 1912, a widow named Esther Malkin on the Lower East Side of Manhattan lived on $1.40 a week for food. She stretched schmaltz across rye bread every morning. That was breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner. That meal is number 1 on this list. A young garment worker in the same tenement building once said that number 4 on this list smelled like Friday even on a Tuesday. And number 7 was so cheap that families made it on the worst weeks, the weeks they didn't talk about later. If you're new here, subscribe. We're counting down 10 forgotten meals from the Jewish immigrant kitchen of 1900s New York. Number 10. Pickled beets. Beets, vinegar, sugar, salt, and water. You boil the beets until soft, slip the skins off, slice them thin, and pour hot brine over them in a jar. They taste sharp and earthy at the same time, like something that fought back a little. In the 1910s, beets were one of the cheapest vegetables in the pushcart markets along Hester Street, sometimes 2 pounds for a penny, and pickling them meant they lasted through the lean part of the week. This was the food you put on the table when everything else ran out. Bright red, almost defiant. Number 9. Potato and onion soup. Potatoes, onions, chicken fat or plain water, salt, and pepper. You fry the onions low and slow until they go soft and gold. Add the potatoes cut rough, cover everything with water, and let it sit on the back of the stove. It tastes of something caramelized and quiet, comfort without pretense. Potatoes were the bedrock of the immigrant kitchen because a 10-pound sack cost 12 cents in 1905 and could feed a family for days. This soup was made on Monday with what was left from Sunday, which was made with what was left from Saturday, which was made with almost nothing. Number 8. Egg barley soup. Egg barley, tiny pasta pellets made from flour and egg. Onion, chicken broth or water, salt, and a little schmaltz. You cook the barley in the broth until it swells and goes soft, then serve it plain in a deep bowl. It tastes thick and satisfying in the way that simple things sometimes are. Like the soup knows what you need. In the 1920s, a bag of egg barley cost a few cents at any Jewish grocery on Delancey Street and could stretch a weak broth into a real meal. This was what mothers made when someone was sick or sad, or both. There's a certain kind of hunger that isn't really about food. It's the hunger that comes after loss, after a death, a job gone, a family scattered. When cooking feels like a performance, no one is watching. You stand at the stove and you don't know who you're feeding anymore. The meals on this list were made by people who kept cooking anyway. Not because it was easy, because stopping meant something worse than hunger. It meant giving up the last ritual that said, I am still here, I still matter. This table is still mine. Number 7. Kasha varnishkis. Buckwheat groats, bow tie pasta, onions, chicken fat, salt, and pepper. You toast the kasha dry in a pan first, crack an egg into it to coat each grain, then cook it with onions and schmaltz before tossing it with boiled bow ties. It smells nutty and savory, deeply filling in, the way grain food fills you, from the inside out. Buckwheat was common in Eastern Europe and came with the immigrants to New York tenements in the early 1900s, where a pound of groats cost about a nickel. This dish was made on Friday afternoons, filling the apartment with a smell that meant the week was almost over, and they had made it through. Number 6. Herring and onions. Salt herring, raw onion, sometimes vinegar, sometimes a little oil. You soak the herring overnight to pull the salt out, then slice it and layer it with thin rings of onion in a bowl. It tastes briny and sharp, with the onion cutting through the fish in a way that wakes you up. A barrel of salt herring sat in every Jewish grocery on the Lower East Side, and a single fish could be had for a penny or two in 1900. It was the protein of poverty, available when nothing else was. To this day, people who grew up eating this can smell it and be 12 years old again, standing in someone's kitchen in Brooklyn. Number 5. Fried liver with onions, beef, or chicken liver. Onions, chicken fat, salt, and pepper. You cook the onions long and slow until they're almost melted, then lay the liver in the hot pan and cook it just through, no longer. The liver goes slightly crisp at the edges, and the onions give it something sweet to lean on. Liver was the cheapest cut at any butcher on Essex Street, often a few cents a pound in the 1910s because American customers didn't want it, which made it a staple for families who had to make every cent count. It was working-class food that tasted like it cost more than it did, which was a small and private victory. Think about what it costs now to eat poorly. A bag of chips, a frozen meal, a fast food sandwich eaten alone in a car. It's expensive to be poor in 2024 in a way that wasn't true in 1910. when a pushcart onion cost almost nothing, and people still cooked from scratch because there was no other option. The meals on this list weren't chosen, they were the only option. But somewhere in that constraint, people made something real. Something that smelled like a home, that sat on a table set with a cloth, that was eaten together. The poverty was real. So was the dignity. Number 4. Kishki beef intestine casing. Flour, schmaltz, onion, salt, pepper, and paprika. You mix the filling, stuff it into the casing, sew it shut, and roast it in the oven until the outside goes dark and the inside is dense and rich. It smells like Friday, like the oven going since morning, like something slow and serious is happening in the kitchen. Kishki was made for Shabbat because the ingredients were almost nothing, scraps and flour. But the result felt ceremonial, like a meal that demanded to be sat down for. This was the art of the immigrant kitchen, turning the parts no one else wanted into the centerpiece of the table. Number 3. Coolant beans, barley, potatoes, whatever meat could be afforded. Sometimes a bone, sometimes a small piece of brisket, onions, and water. You put everything in a pot Friday afternoon and leave it in a low oven overnight, letting it cook through the Sabbath when no work could be done. By Saturday noon, it has collapsed into itself, thick and dark, smelling like something ancient. In the tenements of the early 1900s, some families carried their coolant pot to the neighborhood baker on Friday evening to use the residual heat of the bread oven, a penny or two for the overnight space. This was the meal that organized the entire week around one day of rest, and the pot was proof that the week had been survived. Some of you watching this are cooking alone right now, or not cooking at all, just getting by. There's no shame in that. The people who made these meals were also just getting by. They were also exhausted and uncertain, and cooking in small, cold rooms for people who might not be there much longer. They cooked anyway. That's the whole story. That's everything. Number 2. Potato kugel. Potatoes, eggs, onion, schmaltz or oil, salt, and pepper. You grate the potatoes raw, squeeze out the water, mix in the rest, and bake it in a hot, greased pan until the top is dark and the inside is set. It comes out of the oven with a crust that gives under a spoon and a smell that takes up the whole room. In the 1910s and 20s, potatoes were so cheap they were practically free, and kugel could be made for pennies and fed a full table. This was the dish grandmothers were known for, the one people requested, the one that proved something could be made from almost nothing and still be worth remembering. Number 1. Schmaltz on rye. Rendered chicken fat, rye bread, sometimes salt, sometimes rye beans. The crackling skin left over from rendering. You spread the fat thick on the bread, add the cracklings if you have them, and eat it as it is. It tastes like something between butter and roasted chicken. Rich, savory, not quite like anything else. In the early 1900s, schmaltz was made at home from chicken skin that cost almost nothing, spread on rye bread that cost a penny or two a loaf and eaten by garment workers, peddlers, and children before school on the Lower East Side. It was breakfast when there was nothing else. And it was enough, which was its own kind of grace. This week, make one of these. Just one. Pick the kasha varnishkis or the potato soup, whatever you have the ingredients for. Don't eat it on the couch. Set a place at the table. Sit down, eat it slow. Tell me in the comments, would you try the coolant or the potato kugel first, and why? These meals aren't on this list because they're historic curiosities. They're here because the people who made them refused to disappear, and neither should you. That is dignity.